Hello, everyone. This is your host, Karen Davis King, professional human, and I am here with the holistic detective and one of my dear friends and soul sisters, Mary Phelan. Hello, Mary.
Hello. Thank you for
Right.
having me.
Yes, I've been so excited about this episode. There's so much to talk about. I recently had a session with Mary. I've had sessions with her before, so has my youngest daughter, and she does some powerful work. I'm just going to give you just a little sprinkling of her background and all the things that this woman has done and her trainings and knowledge. And you can read more about her in the description and all the things connected to the podcast. You can also find out more about her on at maryphelan.com. But so Mary has been a spiritual coach, counselor, and teacher for 26 years. And she has also been an intuitive reader, medium. She has been training and a practitioner of EFT tapping. We're going to talk a lot about that today in particular. She's done tens of thousands of individual and group tapping sessions. Her background in computers, computer logic, combined with her extensive psychology and parapsychology, also brain function research, along with years of spiritual and intuitive coaching, has just made her an absolute powerhouse in assisting people, her clients, to release restrictive patterns and limiting beliefs. And I can attest to this through my own experiences with Mary as a friend and just soul sister, but also as a client. And I want to just say before we dive into this, again, we're going to talk a lot today focused on the EFT tapping. This is something that, this series is about mental health and why our mental health is so important. It is the most, like working on our mental health, spiritual growth, all of that is the most important work I believe that we will ever do because it doesn't just affect us, it affects everyone. I recently came to Mary because have experienced her powerful work before. I was going through something very confusing. And it had been a while since I had done any talk therapy. I had done talk therapy for years, a long time ago, and it was very helpful. And I am not at all knocking talk therapy because it does have its value. However, there are times I can remember years ago when I was cracking open my childhood stuff, and I would leave a talk therapy session or even a group. I was in some group sessions before, support groups, and I would leave literally like that, like shaking all over. I had no idea what was happening, but I was very triggered by trauma, and I didn't have any tools. And the therapist that I was working with, again, everybody's at different levels, but that therapist was not really equipped to kind of let us know ahead of time, these are some things that might happen in your body, right? And I was
Mhm,
very triggered by that. So fast forward, there was still a lot of things that were helpful about that, and even being witnessed in
mhm,
having someone see someone with the training and the knowledge that they're not reacting to your stuff. That is very powerful. We need that. However, I was going through something very confusing and I had started talk therapy again. And I felt like this particular therapist, the connection you have with a therapist is really important too. But I felt like she was just trying to kind of find a box to put me in to then fix me out of. We were doing all these, attachment styles and all these different assessments. Oh, yeah, ADHD, this. And it was like, I don't feel like we're getting anywhere. I'm dealing with a confusing situation and something that was kind of traumatic for me. And I'm trying to, I have tools, but I needed to be seen. I needed to be witnessed. I needed someone outside of me to see, like to really see me. And there were aspects of this that I just didn't feel seen. I don't know why I didn't think of you to begin with.
Mm, mm.
And so I was like, wait, what am I doing? Why didn't I call Mary in the first place? Like this woman sees me. Mary has a real gift in just getting right to the root of stuff and seeing, with all your training, the psychic mediumship, all of that stuff, just being able to see straight into the root of the problem. And then
Mm.
there's this beautiful aspect of the EFT, calming the nervous system, all of that, that allows you to kind of move beyond some of the stuff that would normally have you overwhelmed. So I had a really, really powerful session with her. And one of the things I walked away from, and then I want to just give the floor over to you. But in that recent session, I mean, I really walked away with a lot more clarity and confidence in the situation, like, oh, I'm on the right track. And part of the right track, oh my God, no. Sorry about that, y'all. Hey, you know what? I'm all about authenticity. This is real life here. The phone rang. Oops. Anyhow, but all of that, what was I trying to say? The clarity. I walked away with this clarity, and part of the clarity was I don't get to have all the answers here. I don't get to have any real guarantees about what's going to happen next. And let me tell you, if you want to learn about surrender and giving up control, write a book about, surrender. That will teach you some shit. That'll teach you some shit. So I walked away with this sort of being able to rest in faith that I don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have to have any guarantees. I can have safety. I can be at peace no matter what's going on around me, even when I don't
Yeah.
have all the answers. And that is so hard for us as human beings. What happened in that one session, it would have taken me, I don't know how long to get there, if at all, with this other practitioner. And again, I'm not here knocking anybody. And again, there's great value in that. But I want to have you tell us more about EFT tapping and in addition to your gifts. But why
Okay.
is that, Mary? Like, why is that?
Well, that's such a good question. And one of the things that you're just referring to is that when we think of the word surrender, often it's like, okay, I'm going to lay my will down to this larger, bigger picture in essence. But one of the things that I believe we were approaching it from the angle is more about allow rather than surrender. Okay. Because if you allow the fact that we are creating our reality every moment, and there's never a guarantee about the next moment. And I think I referenced that book, The Wisdom of Insecurity, which I don't even remember about, but I think Alan Watts wrote it. Well, it's more like, wow, what's grand surprises are waiting me on my path instead of what dangers and pitfalls do I need to have advance notice about in order to not fall through off the edge of the earth. It's a whole different perspective. And it gets down to two fundamental ways to view life and reality. Either I am safe within the universe or I live in a safe universe. And now they sound identical,
Yeah.
but really, if you are safe within the universe, that means your whole life is spent defending safe, warding off unsafe. When you live in a safe universe, all of a sudden, it's okay to not know the ending of the movie. My sister always would fast forward to make sure everybody made it out okay, and then she would relax and enjoy the movie. Like, what if it's okay? What if there isn't anything against us? But you had mentioned something else that I don't want to forget to talk about, and that is what I'll call the side effects of tapping. So, when you go into root causes of things, think of it like a foundation of a building, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You can take the bricks down, which is in a way to see some forms of talk therapy at times, and depending on what's the most popular technique at the time, is like taking all the bricks down or maybe pulling one out and trying to put a new brick in. Whereas tapping or going at root cause through this method is more like just writing the foundation, and then the whole building just writes itself.
Mm,
So, what happens from that is you may be working on an issue with your mother and anger from the past or some kind of thing like that. But when you process that, all of a sudden, that's not compromising the foundation anymore. And the building starts righting itself. And so then what you notice is all of a sudden your neighbor doing the lawnmower at 8 in the morning doesn't bother you as much anymore. And so that's one of the things with tapping, why it isn't in use everywhere for everything. And you can use this for everything, is because it's what is referred to in emotional freedom techniques and tapping in general as the apex problem. That when you really do real healing, you don't remember being sick. We otherwise we never have a second child if we remember the pain from the first one. You don't remember the last sneeze of a cold or when the moment the paper cut healed. You just all of a sudden don't even remember, oh yeah, I did have a paper cut. And then you have to summon it in your memory. That's what real healing looks like. And then everything stemming from that, like washing the dishes, all of a sudden you're just doing things. So
wow.
it's sort of like having a boulder in a stream, a trauma. And when that boulder is blocking your flow of you and your life, you are forced to go around it. This side will believe in it. Yes, mom told me I was stupid my whole life. I must be stupid. Oh, I better not let anybody see my intelligence. I better be the beta in every situation. And then that just stills out the rebel over here that doesn't agree with it. And she's really mad at this part of us that's going along with this old belief. And this part feels this rebel is out of control and she keeps getting us into trouble. And
Mm,
so that's when we become in a dual perspective. And I believe this is behind the clinical diagnosis of bipolar. We all are. Okay. We live in a duality, right? So you could view tapping as breaking up the boulder, and then your flow naturally carries it away until you are at one with yourself again in these issues.
wow.
So when we have uh, and you had addressed talk therapy, and I would say I agree 100% with you. I think it definitely has its place. But in a way, it comes from a perspective that our mind contains our emotional body, and we're always wrestling with this unruly child that left to its own devices, it's going to eat ice cream every meal.
Mm,
Okay, that's the relationship to our emotional body.
yeah.
So our mind actually fights against us processing emotion. So if we look at what is processing emotion, that is, we have an experience, and these are all the ways I see it. And so I'm not speaking for EFT directly, but I think it is directly addressing it, that we have an experience, we process out the wisdom, we let go of the experience, we become different. We have a cognitive shift, and that's what evolution is, that's what ascension is, that's what growth is.
Mm,
And we do it 1,000 times a day. We know that if we drop a brick and it hits our foot, it's going to hurt. So we have the experience, we process out the wisdom, don't drop bricks on feet. And then all of a sudden, we don't even have to think of it. Our subconscious takes over. It sees a brick over here and it moves your foot out of the way for you. So it incorporates. It's no longer a thought, a task, a mission, or anything like that. It just becomes part of us. And that's the beauty of seeing your emotional body and your mental body as processing things in a completely different way. And our emotional body does not have the language way of processing. So it has the feeling through it. And so tapping, in a way, it does many things, but one thing is it gets the emotional body to have a voice so it feels heard. So it doesn't feel like it keeps having to knock walls down and have yet another experience. Because if we don't process it, guess what? We're going to attract it over and over again, not because we're punishing ourselves, but because we're trying to process that old trauma. we're trying to let that get out through this new experience's door. Just hope maybe she'll process it this time. Nope, it gets built up and built up. And so the combination of tapping on energy meridian endpoints
Hmm.
and saying whatever we say, it gives this emotion a very sophisticated and respectful way, respectful of its inherent vast intelligence
Hmm.
to process it and not be interrupted by the mind. Okay. Or trying, there's no tug of war. Right now, like with talk therapy or dissociation, I see it as often we're trying to make peace with this overwhelming feeling. And that's a stage we have to move through often. So it's not a criticism at all.
Hmm.
But in effect, we're saying emotion, this emotion about the loss of that betrayal and all that, I don't know what to do with you. And I need to take command of my life. So I want you to stay on your side of the room and I'll shackle you to something. And it feels like I've got peace. But then all it takes is some scene in a movie or another experience, and it's right back. And I think everybody can relate to that. It's like, I thought I healed you. Why are you there?
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
it,
they coming back.
yeah, and it comes back. And so that's the charge that we're going to be talking about. Like if we do some tapping together, that you know when something's gone because there's not, it's normal and there's nothing notable about normal. And that's why I can't even count. I
Mhm.
believe it's close to 25,000 individual intuitive or tapping sessions I've done in the last 26 years. Probably I've done this kind of work since I was a small child, but so there's no way to add it up. But I am telling you, I've seen enough to have a pretty accurate read on how this works. And I have seen people clear an old anger at a parent that they've gone to John of God and Tony Robbins and everywhere around the world trying to release it. They release it in one tapping round, and you never hear them talk about it again. And
Wow.
then all of a sudden, they start owning their own company. And so over the years, I see how everything is linked together. The authority in their life was trapped behind that old emotion. You get the old emotion, and all of a sudden, their book is complete. Their company takes off, and they don't even know how related it is. That's why when we get ourselves into painful situations, we have no idea what that's doing to us, you
Wow,
know?
that's so important. Like how often we're walking around completely overwhelmed and hijacked by our emotions and these unhealed parts of ourselves, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't even know. And all the things that we could be experiencing and thriving in life if we
Mm-hmm.
were able to, wow, keep, I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I just got,
Yes. Oh, no, no, no. You're exactly right. And it's so interesting you brought up overwhelm because I was going to suggest if we do a group tapping for everybody to participate in, I was going to talk about doing the idea of overwhelm because it is so insidious. It is so invasive in every area of our life. And it roots right back down to our belief system. And this is how I feel and what's been proven in my own experience that we hear a lot of talk about changing our beliefs and we do it through affirming I can own my own company, I can own my own company. But in the view that I have in working through this, all we're doing is empowering the mental voice to scream louder than the emotional voice, and it's not a real method of change. So it's like if we don't go in there and really look at what's going on between these aspects, it's going to be what is that, arm wrestling, and sometimes one side wins and sometimes the other side wins. You know, so let's look at a trauma, a belief, like okay, that I have a boyfriend, I'm 15 years old, I'm so in love, and oh, I catch him kissing my girlfriend or whatever, and that's like a water balloon that drops. And we can talk through it, we can process through it, and we're like cleaning up the water and all that. And then a year or two later, we find a balloon fragment up under the couch. Those I see are the beliefs that are created through the emotion. And so if we bypass the emotion that created the belief is not going anywhere. It's going to stay. I don't care what you do. It's going to stay because our subconscious mind, where our beliefs are, um, we can change our conscious mind as much as we want. But this is our, I describe it to kids as our superpower. If we really understand our subconscious mind and get into a healthy relationship and give it healthy programs, we don't have to do a thing again. Our subconscious mind will do it just like brushing our teeth in the morning. But if you've got a bunch of those foundational bricks wrong or improper references, because it's, trying to build around an old emotion, your beliefs are, you're going to be struggling with them. But if you look at it as your beliefs are not only informed by your mind and your experiences, they're basically formed and informed by your emotions and your feelings. Because if we are feeling that being in an elevator is dangerous, our whole body listens to that. If we've got this inherent feeling, like the body starts feeling tension, even though we know we're safe, that's the override. It's going to hijack the amygdala cascade, and we're kind of just watching ourselves freak out at that point. So if we go in and really understand the why and we help it and we get both sides, the mind and the heart, on the same page, the boulder's gone and you just flow. So I hope that was understandable, as
Yeah.
an essential premise that we're operating with.
Yeah. And I mean, just what you're saying about, I mean, we're all emotional beings, right? And we do live
Mhm.
in a culture that tries to teaches us to water our emotions down. And
Mhm.
so what you're saying is, we're walking around and we're not really connected to our emotions. One, we don't even have an awareness of where the root of the problem even exists. But even if we are aware of those emotions, we don't know what to do with them. And
Yeah.
those are the emotions make all those connections to the foundation that
Mhm.
that foundation that you're talking about, that everything else springs from. And
Yeah.
it makes like, how many people could use this work, because we're all a hot mess right now. Even if you're not talking politics or anything like that, all the things that are happening in the world, we feel them as feeling sensitive beings. Some of us feel that more than others. We feel the emotions of other people, we feel the collective emotions. So we're all a little bit in overwhelm, if not a lot in overwhelm, even if it isn't our own stuff.
Yes. And you know what? You are speaking the truth, sister. And if you don't, okay, so I've always said trigger begets trigger and truth begets truth, right? If we have all these short circuits in our emotional body, you see a short circuit on TV where somebody's saying this and it's the exact harmony of how your father abused you or whatever, we are going to get hijacked. We're no longer living from the inside out, we're living from the outside in. We leave our body, we let this emotional trigger, we have to ride the cascade out, and then we get dropped off like the next morning after being drunk all night, on the side of the road. It's like, what just happened to me? And then we go into shame, and so then we just have this circle of shame and guilt, and we just don't feel regulated. We don't feel inside of ourselves. So when you get triggered like that, and we all know what that feels like that zzz kind of feel in your body, maybe it's your stomach clenches, your chest, your throat closes. Yeah, and it just feels. I think that so much can be gained if you just pay attention when you are fleeing a situation and when you are chasing a situation. That implies that you're trying to fix something from the past or flee something from the past. And so you're not even seeing what's really going on. And that's what doing this work, when you clear enough of it, all of a sudden you go, you know what? I'm really, really triggered here. Why? And then you just go back in and you figure it out, or you just let it go. And it gives you such a power to be calm. And I know I'm kind of jumping through these things, but I just want to lay some groundwork based on some of the things you said, because you mentioned tapping, and it's been around for a really long time, since the 80s, and it stemmed from applied kinesiology. And back in the 80s, I think Goodhart and Fee were they were chiropractors, and they were noticing that when they were doing adjustments and they would, like, people were talking about something that was painful, they were weak, they couldn't hold their arm up, they couldn't fight against. If we were live, I would show you some demonstrations on this, how emotion affects the strength in your body, so you can imagine it affects the health as well.
Mm.
Well, they discovered that all this, your body's holding this, like the emotions don't just disappear when you forget about them. And so um, Roger Callahan created this system called thought field therapy, where he had a machine and he'd have people talk into it. And he noticed that if you tap on certain energy meridian endpoints, like the top of your head, the inner part of your eyebrow, outer corner of your eye, under your nose, under your bottom lip, the collarbones at the base of your throat, and then these are the tapping points I use. Some people add and exchange them, but then the corners of each nail. And if we had more time, I'd explain why I use these, but just the corners of each nail and back to the side of your hand. And it's as simple as that. And sometimes it's very difficult to think that healing, I feel, God makes things simple, man makes things complicated. So the more tests and scans and words and inventing disease to match up with pharmaceuticals, you automatically know man loves the puzzles, but simplicity is really always where the answer is. And also, the the illness was a long time in coming and the cure is fast, but we're taught that the illness happens real fast and the cure is real long, but it's really the other way around. And so, um, anyway, I know I just distracted myself, but those are the tapping points, and they're actual meridian. There's a lot. Chinese medicine has been around thousands and thousands of years. We know acupressure works. And so think of it as the acupuncture system for the emotional body. So as you're tapping, things release. So they found that this Roger Callahan had a box that people would talk into, and just the tones in their voice, they would get an algorithm. I don't really know how he did it. And so it would say, okay, tap 3 times on the collarbone, twice under the nose, collarbone, nose, because these are circuits that also hold emotion, and do this. And
Yes.
so then Gary Craig took that course, and it was like $10,000 back then. And it was thousands for a session to come up with that. And he said, well, why not just tap on all the points every time? And so think of it as a tool that you can use for anything. You can use it for immediate stressors, and which we'll do an example of the overwhelm. You can use it for what I've kind of gravitated to over the years. My specialty is going in and finding some of these crossed wires and really working at that deeper level. But you can also use it for physical complaints. If you have a case in point, one time a lady came, she was from Hong Kong, as was her husband, and his job moved him to the US. And she was so ill, he had to carry her in. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, just a multitude of symptoms. So he thought, well, I'll just try tapping. And so I tapped with her, and I was really picking up this deep longing and homesickness and this anger at being brought over here. So I didn't focus on her physical complaints as much as I brought that in, and you could see this big release. And she got up and walked to the car. She hadn't walked in, I don't even know how long. And so also, someone had really debilitating um, arthritis in her hips and knees, and she had trouble walking completely. And so we had to like adapt and help her get to where my office was. And we did, I think, a total of 4 sessions. And each time she was able to walk the stairs to get out a little better. And the last time she just trotted down. And so do does everybody have that experience where there's miraculous healing? I think yes, but it may come in the form of spontaneous healing, or it may come in the form of opening you up to the right doctor. You see, because you're ready.
Right. There can be so much resistance
Mm-hmm,
that we're not even conscious of, where we may not be ready to heal
mm-hmm.
physically or emotionally, or even like, I don't know who I am without this pain.
Yes,
That
you
is
know,
really emotionally. I don't know who I am without struggling in certain ways. So if I
yes,
don't have that, what will I do? You know, so
yes.
you have to be ready for that too. It isn't always just about the process itself or the modality or the practitioner even.
You
Yeah.
know, you that is brilliant, and that is a brilliant thing to put to say right here. And you are so right. And that's where over time you get skills, just like with a doctor, where you can see what people are ready for. And that's why there's a place for every type of healing. And but tapping can be used for so many things. Like we were saying, it can be used for that specific trauma. And I do trainings level 1, 2, and 3 in this. I haven't done them in quite a while, but I wanted to break it down to give people these tools. So I may be doing very accessible versions of this, because I really do believe this is the answer to a lot of this. And uh, and you're right, the emotions are just amuck now. And this gives you the tool to say to your emotional body, okay, rather than going into deep psychotherapy and opening Pandora's box and am I going to be out of commission for a while I deal with it? Tapping says, I'm going to take this specific issue off a shelf. I'm going to tap through it. It's designed to be painless and to be healing and quick and simple. And then I'm going to put it back on the shelf. That's very different than dissociating from it and hiding from it, you know?
Right. Or being overwhelmed by it. Because I will just say, just from the sessions that I've done with you before, when I've been, you've guided me through, we're tapping and I'm talking through something that could be traumatic and painful and scary even. But what I'm experiencing, even if I'm having an emotional release, is not fear and terror and trauma. It's I'm emotional, like there's an emotion that's being released from me, but it's not about this traumatic thing that I'm experiencing. It all feels manageable and it feels like I don't know how to describe it, but it's like there's this sense of it's almost like a relief that's happening while we're tapping through it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about something deep and scary, but there's a relief and a release that's happening that's creating this emotion that's pouring out of me. And it's not the trauma itself that I'm experiencing. I don't know a better way to say it, but
No, no, you said that very well, because what it is that something's leaving you. And many, many years ago, I had a really depressive era, okay, with deep depression. Back then there was no internet. I didn't even know there was an option to go to a psychologist. There was no drugs that I was aware of. And I I know now that that was part of my path, because I discovered a lot of things that really helped back then. And one of them, no matter what I was feeling, I pictured it as leaving me, not entering me. And there's a whole different feeling. And so with tapping, when you have someone that walks you through the thought process, the train of thought, while carrying the emotion, the mind all of a sudden says, "Oh, I get it." And the emotions go, "Oh, I get it." And then they just become one, you know? And it's something that's it's like being having your hand held and somebody is there with you to walk out of the forest, you know?
wow,
And
excellently explained. Yeah.
and so why don't we do a little tapping round now that everybody can? And then if you have something specific, we could go in to showing specific. But right now, I would invite everybody, if you wanted to participate. Number one is you're always in control. Whatever we're saying, we're not tapping them into ourselves, because sometimes it looks like we're saying negative affirmations and tapping, but we're not. We are, I call it a draft copy for us to edit. Okay. And all we're doing is seeing how we feel about what we're saying. We don't have to measure it. We just How do I feel about that? And you let them go through your system
Mhm.
and then take a deep breath afterwards. And you don't have to worry about which hand you're using, getting it right. Don't worry about any of that. This is just, let's just see where we go. And so, first off, and this is something I don't do, which I should, but for whatever reason, the spirit moves through me pretty quickly. Whereas maybe you'll see a practitioner that takes their time, almost like EMDR, and focuses on one thing and revisits till it's gone. But mine's more about how this can't go unless we address this thing over here. And so I kind of am more freeform with that.
Mhm.
But we want to know how we feel. And it's like the SUDS level in a hospital. 0 means you don't feel a thing at all, and 10 means you're really intense.
Mhm.
And so we write it down. And so right now, just look at how you hold overwhelm. Everybody just feel overwhelmed. Like for me, I can feel my heart racing. It's almost like I get on top of this motorcycle that's really vibrating and and you're like this, or your head feels like you've had 20 cups of coffee or whatever. Just say, what number do I feel in intensity? And so when you think of your life and everything you have going on, all the to do lists, things that may be left over from the past. Oh, I never got the oil change last year, and all the stuff in your field. What number would you say you feel you're overwhelmed right now?
For me personally,
Mm-hmm.
I start thinking about that, even just the things over the next week or two, because there's a lot of changes happening and there's
Mm-hmm.
these little self-doubts and all that. And I would say about a seven.
Okay. Okay. And so everybody just, the first number that comes to your head, and this isn't an exact science, it's not a science at all. So that's, I mean, it is in a way, but this is not a measured thing, it's a felt and experienced. So let's just do this and just repeat after me, Karen, and everybody else could just repeat with you too if you choose to do this too. So let's just, I feel so overwhelmed.
I feel so overwhelmed.
I don't even understand all the feelings.
I don't even understand all the feelings.
It's like a big stew
It's like a big stew
of anxiousness,
of anxiousness,
of feeling unseen,
of feeling unseen,
of climbing up a big hill
climbing up a big hill
with too much to do
with too much to do,
and feeling like I'll never make it,
and feeling like I'll never make it,
and feeling like even if I did,
and feeling like even if I did,
the target will change
the target will change
and everything will get turned upside down.
and everything will get turned upside down.
I feel like I'll never make it,
I feel like I'll never make it,
but I'll die if I don't try.
but I'll die if I don't try.
There's so much.
There's so much.
I feel like a paper boat
I feel like a paper boat,
on a raging rapids river,
raging rapids river,
a fast flowing river,
fast flowing river.
and I can't catch up.
I can't catch up.
And I'm leaving parts of me behind.
Mm. And I'm leaving parts of me behind.
And I need to wait up for me
And I need to wait up for me
because no one else will.
because no one else will.
I can't.
I can't.
I have to get in that fast river
I have to get in that fast river
because then maybe I'll be able to get into the slow river
because then maybe I'll be able to get into the slow river.
if I just fix enough things,
I just fix enough things,
accomplish enough things,
accomplish enough things,
and I can find peace.
and then I can find peace.
The peace no one has granted me,
The peace no one has granted me,
not even me.
not even me.
That peace
That peace,
of just floating
just floating
and trusting this calm and trustworthy river
and trusting this calm and trustworthy river
that's to take me where I'm to go next.
To take me where I'm to go next.
Maybe I even designed the riverbed,
Mm, maybe I even designed the riverbed,
and it's just calling me to come home.
and it's just calling me to come home.
What if love isn't an effort?
What if love isn't an effort?
What if self care isn't a productivity?
What if self-care isn't productivity?
What if the river of slow is safe?
What if the river slow is safe?
And I can get even more done there.
And I can get even more done there.
And I love, accept, and support myself.
And I love, accept, and support myself.
And then take a deep breath.
Wow.
How did how did that feel? Did as we were saying those things, you probably noticed, and if you focus your attention on, you know what, I did agree with some of that, and some of that gave me a different thought, and there might have been a moment where you saw it differently. And so what we were doing is like helping to get out of the forest. It reminds me of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. You know, how do I get to the place where I know I'm already home? You know, and I get through my fears. I go through all of that. And it's like having a companion to say, okay, this is what releasing this emotion would, that block, I would just naturally flow to the place where, what if this isn't what I need? Maybe I thought that because my father never approved of me. And no matter what I did, no matter what grades I got, I never got to my destination. And so there's a part stuck in the past that's just trying to do more and more to try to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I will get his approval and then I can have my own approval. You know, and so like, well, what if that's not the optimum and this is?
Yeah. And the ways that we can punish ourselves by needing to always be productive and things like that, or the way to productivity is this false belief, or again, it's even about this is what makes me lovable or worthy, doing all the things,
Uh-huh.
and God, I know for me, my trauma response has often been freeze. So when I get overwhelmed, sometimes I just don't know what to do. And then I don't do it.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
like, let me wait for the answer or something. And I'm just making it worse. And
Yes. Yes.
but what happened there was I wasn't like, I wasn't even thinking about the overwhelm that I've been dealing with. And so when you had me go there in my mind and I was feeling it, but very quickly, I didn't go to that place of, oh, I'm in the river and being thrown around and now I just want to just roll over and die.
Yeah. Yeah.
I It felt comforting, like I had help, support to
Hmm.
move through that. And
Yeah.
that I was like a part of, like, that's what it kind of felt like. I'm a part of this river. I'm not, I'm just, I felt comforted and like I'm just moving through it now. I'm not fighting it. I'm not, like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is where we can use tapping, and you don't even have to know what to say. You can just tap on those points and think about what you're feeling and let it release. And the shower is a good place to do this, you know. And um, I was just thinking I could probably send you over a little chart of the tapping points so that you could post those that people
yeah,
see.
that'd
But
be,
even if you just feel like, you know what, I get the most feeling when I tap under my eye or under my nose, you can just stick even with one of those. So if you think of overwhelm, it has like this whole assortment of different feelings in it. And if we're going to go at it analytically, it's like, well, okay, well, you have anxiety. What is anxiety from? what we want to do when we're in the moment is we want to give it a way out because that's all it wants to do. Energy and motion is emotion. We just want it to flow out. Remember, everything you feel is leaving you, and it wants to leave. Your body wants to be free of it. It will do everything in its power to help you be free of it, even getting in another relationship with an abusive partner or a woman that can't open up to you or whatever. You know, that's that's your psyche's way of trying to release these things and convert them to wisdom. And that's why we hold on. It's because we don't understand. We don't have the wisdom. It's asking us to leave something behind. And when we were tapping, and I said, I can't leave it behind. Like I can't leave those pieces of me behind. I really felt strongly it's true for all of us, but I felt particularly true for you. Like everything that, like what teaches us is just leave the stuff behind, just carry this good part forward. But what happens is we're forever, like whatever you hate, you recreate. Whatever part of us we hate, we put out by the curb. Your whole life is going to be about that part banging on the window trying to get in and you getting more afraid of it. And so it's like when we tap, we're also making friends with the emotion. Yeah, I feel insecure. Yeah, I feel like I'm nothing. I feel like I'm stupid. So when we're tapping on that, it's like I'm not going to have my mind run from the idea that I feel this. And so then the mind goes, wow, I don't want you to feel that way. And then the emotion goes, well, I see you've just been trying to get us to move forward. And then we get closer to ourselves.
Having that dialogue and that connection with these parts of each of ourselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah. Yeah. That is really beautiful. And I think these are really powerful things that can be very helpful to our audience, to the collective as a whole. And it's got me thinking about children. Uh,
mm.
how would you go about when I'm sure you've worked with children too. You've worked with so many different people.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
how does
yeah,
this, like, God, I'm just imagining if they taught this in schools, you know?
yes. You
Yeah.
know, I've taught this to children a lot, and they adopt it so quickly. I've used this with anxiety, nightmares, bedwetting, autism,
Yeah.
uh, bullying, um, shame, all kinds of different things. And it really does help. It really does work. Kids will adopt it right away. And then it teaches them to be separate from the feelings, see it as a messenger, because we really are sitting in the middle of a telescope and a microscope. And we are in between. And we're using our mind as the microscope, analyzing it, but we're also looking through the telescope. And we really shouldn't identify with either one, but they are like, you know, like our guardians, like that there uh, um, are temple guards of us. And there are messengers. They're both our advisors, is what the word I was looking for. And if one is trying to be uber over the other, then we're not getting the full picture of everything. And this is really a place to stand in order to really develop your own knowing and your own intuition and everything. And
Wow.
so you had mentioned like how I kind of plugged this in because I had done spiritual readings and counseling things for a while, and I did not feel it was a good service just to tell people, yeah, okay, yeah, you might, the cards are saying you're going to get laid off. I thought, what good does that do? I want to know why you're creating that in your life. Okay, so then it became a windsock, and then the windsock became healing. And we did something using rebirthing breath that we created, that consciously creating your life, that I evolved into tapping salons because I feel like this really works. That if you use this to really get balanced, everything you do is going to be balanced. And you can use tapping with children, you can use it with animals, you can use it like there's a whole branch in sports and in sports medicine arena where think about if you're football, you're in the Super Bowl, fourth down and four, and you fumble the ball and the other team wins. it's well known that that imprint makes that athlete never quite the same. Okay.
Mm.
So these experiences rob us of our innocence, and EFT tapping and the different forms that you can use it in get you back to your innocence where all magic happens,
Mm.
you know?
That is so, I would have known before this, and even having experienced it before, I would have described this as something that really helps with emotional regulation, but it's really so much more than that
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it. Like, and just hearing you talk more about it, I mean, the
Yeah.
the power that that has, and the intuition part, I think, is really important for us collectively right now, because we're
Mm-hmm.
so easy. We're wired, our human bodies are really kind of wired to be easy to manipulate. And
Mm-hmm.
we're living in a culture where nobody knows what's true anymore. And so
That's
we
right.
really cannot afford to not be connected to our intuition. So I cannot say enough how important this work is, not just for emotional regulation, but for us to really connect with who we are, who we're here to be individually as a soul, but like we're all connected. So what we're contributing to the collective by our awareness, by our presence, by the expression of the divine that we're here to be. And if we aren't being very, really connected with our own intuition, we can be very easy prey for all kinds of just manipulation and uh,
You are so right. We just get hijacked. You know what's interesting, and I'm not bringing any political thing in, but back in 2016, that's when a lot of emotions started being used everywhere, right?
yeah.
So I did a survey about people that resented their father and people that resented their mother, and who they voted for back in that election.
Mm.
And it showed me how much of all of our thinking is based on our past experiences. So when I was teaching all these topics like dream interpretation and development, psychic emotion, when I say psychic, I don't mean like, I mean actually developing your higher faculty and clarity. And all the subjects I was teaching, I realized we are only as good as we are living from our center and aware of who we are and why we're making certain decisions and why things pull us in different directions. You are exactly right. Right now, we are finding the clarity that matches our most traumatic part of our emotional body. We can't even see anything past that. So as you get regulated, your truth comes out. No, yes, this is what I want. I don't have to be there. And it's like you always find yourself in the right place, like Forrest Gump. And something comes to you, and that this is a faculty that I teach of how to really use your body to know what truth is in your life. But you can't know that if you are busy putting out fires from the past and trying to catch tomorrow's fish with today's worm. You're not even present in that. So I agree. I think this is something very essential. Everyone will find their way to the thing that they're finding in their own way. But I think it's really wonderful that you put this out there as one of the tools for people to use. And I know everybody finds their way through their own doorway, but I have used this enough that I know how it works. I remember when I first heard about it, I knew about it for a number of years.
Mhm.
And to me, it looked like Stuart Smalley going, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough. And it's not like I judged it, but I just said, that's something I need heavy duty. I need the green beret of healing for me. Um, and so I was teaching and I was leading someone through a tapping round, and I just started crying, and I have no idea why. All I knew is I felt different the next day. And so remember, even if you don't know what to say, just breathe and tap, just breathe and tap, and it will get an outlet for your anxiety that you're feeling or your depression. And next thing you know, you'll just get bored with the tapping and you're doing something else.
Yeah, that is really, thank you so much for that, Mary. And this is exactly why I decided to start doing a podcast again and base it on, it's a podcast for the people. It's based on, so people will know what their options are, what's out there, what's available to us as human beings to help us on
Mm.
our path of
Mhm.
evolution, individually and collectively. And there's a lot of great things and different things that may speak to us or be helpful to us now may be helpful to us 10, 20 years from now. They may not. There might be something else that we find really useful. But the thing is to keep staying connected to ourselves enough to say, what am I needing? Is this still working for me? Just what am I needing to continue a consistent path of growth in life,
Yeah. Yes. It's so
right?
well said. It's so well said. I love the way you put things.
Aw.
And also, what do what penance do we think we have to pay to get here to live behind our own eyes and know that our self exploration is the only reason we're here? Our growth, our contribution to the whole. We're one facet of this big whole. I don't, one time I saw it as I don't want to turn a term paper of life through my facet of God's eyes from somebody else's perspective. I
Mhm.
need to find that, but how do I get liberation from those other people's perspectives, especially the ones that were branded on my soul through trauma,
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the movie Snake Pit as a child, and I really wanted to be a psychiatrist. I just wanted to help people. My path didn't take me in that direction, but I ended up where I wanted to be anyway, you
It's
know?
funny
Yeah.
how that works. I've been on this crazy roller coaster of a path, and I'm like looking around, going, "What the hell? How did I get here? I don't know, but I'm so glad I'm here. I would
Oh,
not have
yeah.
guessed this. I would not have known this was coming or that was coming, but I'm so glad I'm here. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." And I
Yes.
feel like if my 8-year-old self were to see me over the last, like everything, over the last several years, even though there's been some crazy tough things, she'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't wait." Like for at least some of it. Some of it, it'd be like, "Oh shit, we're going through that." But just even using dance and other things, and like she would like who I am because there's still pieces of her. And I've
Yeah.
reclaimed some of
Yeah.
her innocence through
Yeah.
a lot of shit that's tried to take that from
Hmm.
her.
Hmm.
But, like we've been working together all this time. It's like, no one's taken that from you, honey. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. And, just getting that innocence without having to do it through defiance or conquering. And, people say, am I going to get to the place where I'm going to do all this healing work, I'm going to get fixed, and then I'm going to move on with my life? What happens when you get fixed, if we want to put that in quotes, is everything starts being fun. The self exploration starts being fun and exciting, and getting into lucid dreaming and exploring your consciousness, and what does it feel like to live with all of me inside of me and out instead of outside of me? um if you it, it's just so wonderful. And before I forget, I wanted to have everyone after the tapping to step into that feeling of overwhelm and see if you still see it as a 7. I don't know if it's, and sometimes it's hard to even connect with it anymore.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, I would definitely say it's not a 7. Like, it seems irrelevant.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, it just doesn't even feel relevant.
Okay, that's so well said. And
Yeah.
think of that's how our emotional healing happens. It's really intense. We come up with a number immediately, and then I don't know. It's almost like our mouth can't even say a number. We can't even picture a number.
Mhm.
That's what emotional healing and processing and metabolizing the emotion feels like. It's no longer there. That was just a vehicle to get something to leave. After you answer the door, it's not going to keep knocking in that way. Now,
Mhm.
maybe it might reveal another aspect, like turn the lawnmower off, you can hear the TV. You turn the TV off, you can hear the radio. But whatever leaves, leaves. It doesn't come back because it's gone. It just might be another facet of it. And like tapping on overwhelm, it may be overwhelm, just the feeling. And then we clear that. And it's like overwhelm is, oh, the fear of being disapproved of. Like it can transform into other things, um, that feeling. But anyway, I think that's great. Um, so just remember that tapping brings lots of side effects, the good kind, the positive side effects. And there's not really a downside to it. You don't have to go into painful emotion. There's lots of techniques within this technique. That's why it's called emotional freedom techniques. And I know that there's a lot of tapping, like the tapping groups that are out there, Nick Ortner and all them that kind of have taken it and done their freestyle thing. But I think there's a lot of value in understanding its evolution through Gary Craig, which is really the creator. And I just pay respect to the people that really kind of birthed it originally. But it's just a tool. Even he says it's a tool. And so there's a lot of techniques that people have contributed to this.
Mhm.
And there are techniques to get to severe trauma where you never have to talk about the trauma at all.
Mm.
And there are ways to get through a traumatic event so that you see all the things. Because when you go through a trauma, it gives you an imprint. And so then we become afraid of everything.
Oh my
And then you don't know why you have a phobia over ashtrays over here. Well, there's a technique to get to all the different things.
Yeah, I there was a time in my life when my trauma became my identity. Like I didn't know how to be anything but a trauma survivor, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that was how I just kind of moved about the world. And I remember, I'll just say this and then we'll wrap it up. But
Okay.
I when I had started doing my training with Layla Martin on the sexuality coaching, man, I the thing that really appealed to me about that was I'd worked with so many people and had my own experiences of sexual trauma and that like what was taken from me, how like sex, healthy sexuality can be such a beautiful gift in our human experience. But so many of us with sexual trauma have not experienced it that way. That was taken from us. And
Mm,
what I was like, everything was about trauma, trauma, trauma. And it was like, wait, I want to help people get to a place where they can experience liberation. And I
yeah.
don't mean liberation like, oh, do whatever, like, because that can be damaging to ourselves if we're not mindful, if we're just doing something, just in a certain way. But it's like the liberation of actually being able to have and experience my own sexuality or intimacy with a partner in the ways that my soul really desires. To
Mm.
be able to step into that vulnerability and intimacy that I've always craved, but never really been able to get to because this trauma was in the way and I was just too busy identifying with it.
Absolutely. We used to do a class called the 13th step, which was what, who am I? How can I develop a trust in myself to get beyond the traumatic reality that happened? How can I let that go? Because it becomes our avenue of self care. It became the only way we could take care of ourselves. So we're still falling for the whole belief system that the trauma brought. And so getting past the trauma, I think that's beautiful. And I think your dance really, really the dance that you teach and it just like let's just step beyond it because once you step beyond it you that's how it's like you don't really let go of the pen until you pick up the air or the next thing.
Yeah.
And so I really support you in that work because I think that's powerful work. So
Thank you.
well, thank you so much for having me and hopefully this will be a avenue for people to use to relieve some stuff.
Yes, and Mary has so many more wonderful things and so much wisdom to impart that I hope this is not the last time I have you on the show. I would love
Oh, well,
to
I
have
would
you
love to come
again.
back.
and we can hear more about your own personal story and things like that. But I would love to have you back on the show. But we are going to wrap it up. And Mary, thank you again so much, not just for being on the show, but for being on the planet at this point in time, because
Oh,
you
well,
are
you
needed
too.
here.
You too. And thank you for all you do for the world. It's wonderful. And congratulations on getting your book out there. It's powerful. Even the title, it
Hmm.
elicits a healing. I mean, really. So
Hmm.
thank you for
Thank
having me.
Thank you. And yeah, I'll just throw a plug in real quick. I don't have a launch date for the book yet, but it is called White Flags at Night. It'll probably be launching early 2026. It is a memoir on the art of surrender, learning the art of surrender through adversity and challenging times. So
Mm,
we can be looking for that later on, but for now, it's still in the process and it'll come out when it's ready.
that's right.
Thank
And
you.
you are really a wonderful author. And the way you put things, I think even in your voice, you're a powerful healer. So I really encourage you to keep your podcast because it's really helpful. But anyway, thank you again for having me.
Oh, it is absolutely my pleasure. And I'm sure that many other people will benefit from what you've shared today. So thank you again, Mary.
Thank you. Bye bye.